promoting and supporting some of the cornerstones of the American experience. It's all about family, faith, and freedom. Now let's get back to the Curtis Report with your host, Barry Curtis.
A commentary of sorts. Black, but not like me. Mr. Obama, I'm a black man. I know that you're black, but not like me. I know that perhaps your policies have an unintended effect on blacks, so I'm here to proudly proclaim to you that I am a black man in spite of your policies. The national unemployment rate among black men in this country is estimated to be some 14%. This is the highest level since the Great Depression amongst minority groups. You have come under great pressure and great criticism from your own party for your failure to even talk about the issue. Of course, Mr. Obama, you've always held a government job, so you may have less knowledge of real working men and women. Mr. Obama, you're black, but not like me. Mr. Obama, black homeowners lose their homes at an alarming rate. According to the Washington Post back in June of 2010, minority homeowners have been disproportionately affected by the foreclosure crisis and stand to lose homes at a faster pace than white borrowers in the future. The report went on to say that while about 4.5% of white borrowers lose their homes to foreclosures during that period, black and Latino borrowers had 7.9 and 7.7% foreclosure rates respectively. That means that blacks and Latinos were more than 70% more likely to lose their homes to foreclosure during that same period. Mr. Obama, your answer to this was to push for mortgage companies to further loosen the approval process to buy homes in minority communities. Despite alarming evidence that this was a damaging policy, Mr. Obama, you're black, but not like me. Mr. Obama, the black crime is strangling our inner cities, and now the suburbs are being affected. According to the New Century Foundation, which is a 501c think tank, blacks are 7 times more likely than people of other races to commit murder, and 8 times more likely to commit robbery. When blacks commit crimes of violence, they're nearly 3 times more likely than non-blacks to use a gun, and more than twice as likely to use a knife. The single best indicator of violent crime levels in an area is the percentage of the population that is black and Hispanic. Mr. Obama, your response to this has been that same old liberal line of, let's look at the root cause. If only they had a father, if only they had money, if only they had a job, if only they didn't live in dilapidated housing, oh, poor black people. If only these things weren't true, then maybe they wouldn't rob you or murder you. Sad, Mr. President. Sad. I know you're black, sir, but not like me. Mr. President, there are people of all races in this country, black, white, Hispanic, and Asian, that are living the true American experience. You see, Mr. President, we don't need your food stamps, free cell phones, unending unemployment benefits, and free housing. We just need an opportunity. You're black, Mr. Obama, but not like me. Dean Hess died. He was 97. Preacher, pilot, Dean Hess, dead at the age of 97. Oh, you may not know him, but it's just someone I thought you'd like to get to know. Dean Hess. As a young minister of the Disciples of Christ Church, Mr. Hess preached his first sermon at the age of 16 and flew a Piper Cub, that's an airplane, as he hopscotched from parish to parish in the Midwest. But after the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor, he decided to enlist in the aviation cadet program. The church elders were incredulous, but he recalled telling them, this is brilliant, he recalled telling them, quote, "If we believe our cause is just and necessary, how in all conscience can I ask others to protect it, and me, while I keep clean of the gory mess of war?" Dean Hess. He flew more than 300 combat missions over Europe and Korea and retired as a lieutenant colonel. He was forever immortalized in his autobiography called Battle Hymn, and a movie of the same name. In fact, he was played by Rock Hudson in the movie. He was also a consultant to the film, and for the airborne scenes flew the plane at the center of the story, the P-51, bearing the number 18. And on the engine cowling, Korean characters there on the engine that translated as, "By faith, I fly." After enlisting, he was sent to France in 1944 and flew 63 combat missions there for the Army Air Force. On one he wrote in Battle Hymn, he was strafing railroad yards at Kaiserslautern, which is a German town, when a 1,000-pound bomb he had dropped overshot its target and struck a brick apartment building. Dozens were killed. A little hole appeared in the wall from the penetration, he wrote, of the bomb casing, and a moment later, the insides of the building spilled out. Sometime later, while driving through that same town, he learned that the blackened shell of the building that his bomb had destroyed had been an orphanage and a school for hundreds of children of local war workers. He tried not to look. He wrote, "But it seemed to stare at me like some malevolent eye. I wonder if beneath the piles of brick a few small bodies still lay, as yet undiscovered." After the war, he earned a master's degree in European history at Ohio University and working on his doctorate at Ohio State University in 1948 when the military recalled him. By then, the Army Air Forces had been renamed the Air Force, a separate branch. He was deployed to Korea, ostensibly to train the fledgling South Korean Air Force, but there was no keeping him out of combat or from intervening to provide relief for starving and homeless children orphaned by the Korean War. According to the National Museum of the United States Air Force, Colonel Hess, Lieutenant Colonel Russell L. Blaisdell, a command chaplain, Staff Sergeant Merrill Strange, and other 5th Army Airmen and Korean special workers started what they called Operation Kitty Car. They rounded up orphans in Seoul, South Korea that is, found them shelter and medical care, and collected contributions of food, clothing, cash. And after commandeering 16 C-54 transport planes, they evacuated the children from Incheon to Jeonju, an island off the southern Korean coast, where Colonel Hess helped establish an orphanage. President Syngman Rhee of South Korea awarded him a medal in 1951. Colonel Hess later donated the proceeds from the book and film to support a second orphanage near Seoul and adopted a 5-year-old Korean girl in 1960. A reporter for the Air Force Times once conjectured that Operation Kitty Car represented atonement of sorts for the accidental bombing in Germany. "I don't know," Colonel Hess said. "Of course, anyone would be sympathetic to the plight of children," he said. But he added, "At the time of the bombing, it seemed just like another mission, accomplished with a degree of success because at least one bomb had found its intended target in the railway yard." As he flew back to France from Kaiserslautern, he recalled he wondered whether he had killed anyone, but was more concerned about whether he had fulfilled his mission. "If I was suffering," he wrote, "it was in some remote and subconscious part of my mind. For when I became a combatant, it was with the full knowledge that I had to accept killing in behalf of the way of life I was sworn to protect." Dean Elmer Hess was born on December 6, 1917, in Marietta, Ohio. His father, Lemuel, was a city government's electrician. His mother, the former Florence Miller, was a homemaker. Mr. Hess was a graduate of Marietta College. After returning from Korea, Colonel Hess served in recruiting and public affairs role until he retired from the Air Force in 1969. He later taught high school economics, history, and psychology in Ohio. He never returned to the ministry. Besides his son Lawrence, he's survived by 2 other sons, Edward and Ronald, a daughter, Marilyn Hess, 7 grandkids, and 10 great-grandchildren. His wife, the former Mary Lawrence, died in 1996. Lawrence Hess said his father had grown up wanting to be a pastor. According to an article in Life magazine in 1957, when the Colonel Hess once said his life so far, and it was not even half over at the time, had been a confluence of flying and faith. He went on to say, and I love this part, "Flight brought me many times closer to God." Dean Hess, preacher, pilot, dead at the age of 97. Job well done, sir. Job well done.